What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday morning. Trade to Black, presented by Flowhub. I am your host, Shad Dales. Good to see everybody here this morning. And what a week. We saw the tweet from Matt Gaetz. I think that was Tuesday. And Anthony Martinelli, from editor-in-chief of Marijuana Herald, put out another tweet, almost doubling down on some of the early sentiment or immediate sentiment on this whole rescheduling rumor. So is there some legs to that? I know a lot of you are asking that question, so we'll dive into that and briefly touch on that and some of the sources that we're hearing about. Just the timeline, again, what Anthony has said all week, it is tough to gauge what we're seeing and hearing because this is an agency. This is a black box, more or less, territory that we're in where no mentions or any kind of rumors are being shared whatsoever. So we're just in the waiting mode. We'll also look at some of the industry news here this morning. An ATM announced by Cresco Labs, and Anthony Coniglio, CEO of NewLake Capital, is going to come in and join us, talk about a lot of things regarding the industry as a whole as well. I don't know if you know this or not, but for 3 weeks in December, actually during the time that the industry got pulled the rug underneath their feet, I wasn't aware, but NewLake stock was up 28% for 3 weeks in December. Why is that? Well, we'll find out more. But anyways, let's get into today's podcast. Welcome in, AV. Friday morning. Good to see you. And man, more drama on Twitter, right?
Tons, but it never stops. This is also the last Friday show that we're doing, so we'll have to go out with a bang potentially. But yeah, it's a good week, solid week, stable week. I know obviously there are rumors going around from Anthony from the Marijuana Herald.
Yeah.
It comes when it comes. I don't think it's going to happen today. It would be nice if it happened today. I have no expectations for that. I think it's going to happen by the end of Q1, like I've said. And I think it's really just smart for cannabis investors to not have timelines. As Mark Cahode said, the king has spoken. This will get done. It might get done in a timely fashion. It might get done in a couple of months. But we do kind of live and die by what he wants. So as long as he still wants this, and as long as the DOJ and DEA are working on it, and people like Howard Kessler keep pressure on them, it's going to happen. And I mean, just read the tea leaves. Cresco's ATM, TrueLeaf just raised an upsize round. Who was it last week? It was Cureleaf that raised their. It was Cureleaf or Verrano that Verrano raised their revolver. I think by $25 million. The big boys are positioning for something. And I don't think it's going to be for just complete staleness in the sector.
Yeah, Cresco with the $100 million ATM that they announced this morning. Actually, it seems to be positive the way people are perceiving it because the stock's up, I think you said before we went live, up 5% here early this morning. So did speak to a few people over there, and this is not about cash flow for operations. This is definitely towards flexibility, optionality, and AKA reform. Because we all know that once reform gets into place, you're already seeing it now with M&A, but that'll be put into overdrive and you'll start to see some changes. So they want optionality. And that was something that Charlie and the team confirmed this morning as per the press release, and some of the comments were made and we followed up with them afterwards. So definitely view it as that. And right now it appears that the market likes it because it's up 5%. So like everybody says, to your point, stop focusing on timelines and keep focusing more on, you have a president that signed an executive order. It is going to happen. I also reached out to a former member of the USCR last night, and he said inaccurate as far as some of the stuff that's been floated around on Twitter right now as far as timelines. So take that for what you will. You know, we want to obviously reach out to various people, hear if there's something consistent or if there's actually some truth to what's being shared online. And again, all the feedback that we get as far as something imminent, we could be wrong, but every single person I've spoken to has not said it is imminent. So there you go.
Use the imminent word twice.
Well,
it's I don't know if imminent might be worse than soon around here.
Yeah, but Shad gives good timelines. I'm doing what I can, trying to be realistic. Anthony Coniglio is going to come on in just a moment. Just looking in the background right now. But anyways, we'll get something figured out. But let's look at this $100 million ATM, Cresco Labs. When you look at the last 6 months or so, they had a strong Q3. They refinanced $325 million in debt. They opened some new dispensaries. So again, as I said, this is all about optionality. Maybe talk about why, because you brought up some good points about this VWAP that was clearly indicated or not indicated in the press release, but why the market is in the, sorry, tripping over my words right now, why this is being viewed as being positive here this morning.
It's a $100 million ATM that's going to be done at the market. I mean, this is a way to position institutional investors if they want to get in larger blocks. You know for damn sure that institutional investors or anybody with size, I mean, even an investor with a 7-figure account can't really position himself into TrueLeave, GTI, Cresco, Verano, any of those big boys. There isn't enough liquidity and the markets suck. With the ATM, I mean, you can behind the scenes through your broker, through the prime broker and through the company directly, I mean, arrange blocks to come in without having to deal with the spread and just the illiquidity of the public market.
Yeah. Well, to get someone else's opinion regarding this news, let's bring in the CEO of NewLake Capital, Anthony Coniglio. Happy Friday morning. Good day, sir.
Hey, fellas. How are we doing? Happy Friday.
Good. You know, I know you're careful in how you comment about other companies in the space right now, but it's always encouraging to see some of the announcements that are taking place. But Anthony and I are viewing this as this $100 million ATM that Cresco announced this morning. This is about optionality, given that, you know, it looks like reform indeed is going to take place. Did you see the news and how do you view it?
Unmitigated positive. It is an important tool that companies utilize. NewLake's had an ATM. We announced it a few years ago. Most companies, shouldn't say most, many companies have ATMs. They haven't been as typical here in the cannabis industry for all the reasons we know about this industry being unique. But take a look at Canopy. You know, if you want to talk about ATMs, in the third quarter last year, Canopy issued well over $100 million. Now, granted, totally different liquidity profile for them, but they issued significant amount of equity. And if you look at Canopy's recent announcement on their debt facility, I looked at this a few weeks ago when it came out, and I was doing the math in my head, and it just didn't square. Their projected cash balance in their press release, they talked about having over $400 million of cash at the end of the quarter. And if you do the back of the envelope math with what they did with the debt, where cash was, what the profile of cash generation is for the business, it tells you that they probably issued 100 million or so during the fourth quarter through the ATM. So there's proof that when you get to more liquidity, these companies will have the ability to issue stock. As Anthony said, having those one-off conversations with investors without having to do a block trade could be very powerful and allow them to raise equity to help recapitalize the balance sheet or fund expansion.
So being proactive, getting ahead of this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, go to Verano and their move to redomicile here. That was a signal of confidence. I think this ATM putting it in place. Listen, they're not cheap. You have to spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for the legal opinions to get it filed, to the bankers, to the accounting firms for their opinions, the SEC fee, not the fees to the SEC, but the fees to the lawyers for the SEC. So listen, you don't just do this. You spend money if you think it's going to pay you dividends. And I think these are all terrific signals that people have confidence that we'll ultimately get reform.
Okay. How are you viewing the space right now? You know, I don't want to bring up what happened in December and focus on that, but we know like we're 6 weeks out, still seeing relatively light volume. I think people are very frustrated. They were rattled, as we talked about in previous podcasts that we had on with you, you know, since that happened to December 18th. Fast forward the end of January, it still feels like that had a lasting effect on the space right now. But overall, you know, I think we are on the verge of change. And with change, you have reform. And with reform, you potentially have new investors that enter into the space because it starts to attract a new audience. How would you view the space right now here as we're 1 month into 2026?
Really, nothing's changed in terms of the economic outlook for the next few quarters. But I think optimism is there for sure. I think people see that there is a path to the other side of this capital desert that we're living in as an industry. There's a path to once you get through the capital desert for recapitalization, for normalization, for improvement in valuations. Whereas before December 18th, there was tremendous amount of uncertainty. So now there's still uncertainty, right? How long is it going to take? What does it look like? What are the legal side? All the stuff that you talked about on your last show and previous shows. But people have this sense of hope. It's not hopium like we've talked about in previous podcasts. There's real hope. Like, okay, I have a credible path forward but we still need action, right? You
Yeah.
still get to Schedule III, and then that doesn't answer a lot of questions. That's the first domino, and then you still need to get some additional reform, in my opinion, in order to get to the promised land for regular way capital access.
You have a decent amount of public and private participants within the portfolio. I mean, when you're conversing with them now post the executive order and just going into this year, like how's the sentiment throughout the portfolio? Like, are they talking about stabilization? Are they looking forward to expansion under what the new I guess regulations of the industry could look like? I mean, how are they feeling?
It's a tale of two cities based on your state profile. Right. So if you happen to have operations in Michigan, we don't have any properties in Michigan, but we have tenants that do. If you have operations in Michigan, it's terrible outlook because of the tax that's being put on there. If you have a license in Kentucky, you're feeling pretty optimistic. You have a license in Virginia, you're feeling very, very optimistic. If you got lucky and you won something in Texas, you're feeling optimistic. If you're Pennsylvania, just like one of your guests said, I think a few episodes ago, like every year we sit here and we prognosticate that this is the year for Pennsylvania. So there you're a little cautious. So it really depends on what the state profile of the operator looks like. But by and large, even for those with some difficult state profiles, they feel like this executive order is a shot in the arm and gives them more options in 26 than they would have had otherwise.
And then in Texas, have you evaluated Texas as far as an opportunity right now? I mean, have you ran the numbers with how much in potential CapEx they would need to build out that state with those licenses coming online, and really what it would look like in terms of just going from the license issuances to just growing the assets within that state to get it to some semblance of maturity?
Yeah, I don't have an exact number, but we have looked at it. And the reason we don't have the exact numbers, there's so many variables. I could say they need $100 million of real estate CapEx, or it could be 500 million of real estate CapEx. But look at Kentucky as a guide, right? You would have thought that would be a good market and you'd actually see a fair amount of build out there. But as we know, the governor a few weeks ago was disappointed with the rollout. Well, why was he disappointed that shelves were empty? Because there isn't a lot of production going on. There isn't a lot of production going on because organizations didn't want to take on that CapEx obligation because they were being prudent. I'm not being critical. I think some people were very prudent and said, I don't want to take on a very large CapEx project. So if I take that learning and apply it to Texas, with the overlay that Texas has a significant hemp industry,
Correct.
you have to start to say, okay, what are the products going to look like? How's it going to compete with hemp? Who has the license? Who has the capability to invest tens of millions, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million to get a vertically integrated structure established? Or are people going to try to lead only with cultivation, lead only with retail? And what is that market going to look like? So still, we love Texas. We want to be in Texas. I think it's going to be a great state long term. But I think for the next 12 months, it's going to be a cautious approach to the state until the is a little bit.
Sure.
I think
We
you're
had Mark
completely
Cahotis
correct, because some of the operators that I spoke to that won licenses in that round are taking a very, very cautious approach. They almost see the piece of paper as a call option for what will be a very, very big market moving forward, but taking a very slow, steady, and cautious approach, especially in terms of deploying CapEx into that market until there's some semblance of stabilization around the hemp industry and until there's really some just visibility on what it's going to take to build out that market and compete. But yeah, it's going to be big. It's just a matter of if, not when.
They have to right now, the cautious approach, right? And we've had a few people on recently. Some people, Mark Cahotis was saying he thinks this hemp extension is going to happen. We had Michael Bronstein on Monday and said no. And I don't know how an extension even gets implemented when you think about this administration and considering what's happened since with regards to this executive order. I would be shocked if an extension is implemented. Would you not be, Anthony?
Nothing shocks me around this industry, Shad. Come on. And nothing should shock you. And this is politics. And here we go, prognosticating on political outcomes.
I know.
And I could paint credible pictures for both paths. I think in an election year, getting senators to vote yes for synthetic THC is going to be very difficult. However, does it get attached to some must-pass bill like a CR where people focus more on they focus more on the farmers
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the synthetic piece? Is there enough time to get a nuanced bill together that separates out and says we're going to regulate or ban the synthetics and we're going to allow not? I don't know. It feels like a heavy lift in an election year with a lot of other stuff going on. Then again, and I know I'm not really answering the question, I'm just giving you the variables I think about. Then again, this alcohol lobby is a very strong lobby, and I think there's real traction for low dose beverages to try to get through. And I think when you look at that letter from Total Wine and from the consortium of distributors, it reminds us all that this was a significant consumer product that provided growth in a category that didn't have a lot of growth and doesn't have a lot of growth prospects. So, so there's a lot of, I think, competing forces, and there's no way I could really have a view on
No, I get it.
which which is going to win, the push or the pull.
Yeah.
But I think that's the right take, because with I like and respect Mark. Mark is the only person that I've spoken to that thinks that the extension is actually going to happen. Everybody else, I mean, a consensus is pretty much no. And to be honest, the only way that I think that extension gets done in some way, shape, or form is if the alcohol industry decides we're going to allocate resources, we're going to use our influence, and we're going to take this thing and bring it over the finish line for beverages and get some sort of semblance of that done. Anything short of that, I don't see it happening this year. And I think you're correct. In an election year, getting senators to vote for synthetic THC is going to be a very heavy lift and something they probably don't want to touch coming out of last year with what banned it effectively in the CR.
Yeah.
Now, the other factor around all this, and I don't have an answer, so maybe some of your viewers have some content that they can share with you all. When you go back to that press conference after the signing of the EO, they talked about wanting to roll out products later this year and get through the research later this year. Now, some of that ties to the rescheduling. But when you look at the definition in the CR, I don't know enough to say, does the current ban allow the administration, from the HHS perspective, does it allow the administration to accomplish its CBD and goals for Medicare and the products that they were thinking about with the current definitions? And is that some motivation for there to be some legislation to provide the right definition so they could accomplish their stated goals of delivering CBD products to seniors by the end of the year?
So I thought about that, but technically the companies that are going to be governed under Schedule III, being the state-run cannabis businesses, they can produce full-spectrum CBD products under their current footprints with the resources that they have, and you don't have to give way to hemp in any way, shape, or form. That is a real possibility, which is kind of how I see that playing out. If you want to look at it in a logical sense, that way we get everything we want.
You know, and I think that's biased from our perspective in the chairs, because when you listen to the words that they used, nobody said cannabis. Nobody talked about cannabis in that press conference. They all talk about hemp products.
But they said full spectrum, which full spectrum implies THC is present in that formulation. You don't get full spectrum CBD products without a little bit of 0.3% or whatever it is of THC. And if you go by the ban in the CR, those products can't happen. I mean, you're completely correct. There's got to be a give one way or another through one of these avenues to give light to what they want done with the EO. And it can't be the ban goes through and they don't figure it out under the EO, because then it's completely contradictory.
Simon brings up that's exactly what the second part of Trump's executive order addresses by asking Blair to coordinate with Congress, is what he writes. So take that for as you will.
The coordinating with Congress and the legislative body right now is so difficult. Like, if they think they're going to get a single bill to regulate synthetic hemp products through in this Congress, I mean, good luck. Because it looks like they can't do anything right now, like anything. And cannabis is not going to be that one thing that gets done.
Anthony, we've talked off and on how many years now with you about safer banking, and we have talked about the standalone bill. Those days are long gone. if we get cannabis reform, we're on to the next chapter, which is all about uplisting, and whether or not this bill finally gets a vote. I just don't understand how that's going to work, especially in this day and age when it comes to like what Congress is dealing with heading into the midterms. But everyone believes that uplisting is going to become a major talking point for this space after rescheduling does take place. I hope that happens. I want to believe that happens, but there's a difference between hoping and actually reality. How do you see it? Because, like I said, we're heading into a midterm election, and there's a lot of things that have to go our way in order to like that bill to finally get a floor vote.
I think it has to have some sort of political impetus. I think that if we get someone like President Trump or somebody senior in the administration to look at the hypocrisy that we've out, U.S. businesses relying on Canadian exchanges, employees that are not necessarily fully counted in the employment data. I think some of them are, not all of them. Most people expect that not all of them are. There's some political reasons why you'd want to get legislation. And also remember, in the context of the safer banking bill, I believe it's section 10, one of the largest sections in the bill, has to do with debanking. And that has been a priority for Republicans since the previous administration. And in fact, as SAFE became safer and evolved, the section that became more robust was that section 10, was that language around debanking. And we know that this administration started off a year ago focusing very much in the Senate on hearings around debanking. So, those would have to be some of the motivations for them to get it done. And without that, though, I agree with you. Expecting people to quote unquote do the right thing is going to be a tall task in an election year.
Section 10, that's the bottleneck, is it not, guys?
No, section 10 is the positive for us. The fact
Is
that
the
section 10 that section 10 language plays right into the initiatives of the administration.
So how could you see, I guess, this current administration playing this out? Like, do you think this will be a focal point for them at all? No. I think we lost Anthony there.
No.
I wanted to ask him one more question just with regards to some of his stock's performance, but it's interesting takes that he says, though. Like, that's definitely something that
the section 10 language is what played right into Trump's hand. When Trump starts talking about debanking, his family's been debanked, the crypto industry's been debanked, several industries have been debanked, and it's un-American. That section 10 language is what gives safer hope that it would be included in a broader debanking initiative. It opens the door for us.
That to me is the angle. If we're going to get anything to move, we'll bring him back up. How are you, sir? Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Anyway, we're just echoing what you're saying. Silver dropped 10%. Actually, I was seeing that this morning. You brought that up before we went live. People thinking that silver is peaked. Have you checked out that run about silver, Anthony?
I have not. We have enough to keep track of, but I've not kept track. I mean, from a distance, whether it's silver, even gold at an all-time high, I think there's so many cross currents going on in capital markets today that it's really hard to figure out the path going forward. Much more difficult than it was before, whether it's the advent of AI and how that's going to impact companies, employment, inflation, economic growth. How does that impact geopolitical issues and who's got the benefit of AI? How does that play into precious metals and the advent of new currencies and electronic currencies and Bitcoin and Ethereum? And there's so much going on that ends up getting intertwined in the power usage, et cetera, that I think makes it really, really hard without having a team. Or I guess you could just ask ChatGPT. Maybe that'll give you the answer.
Good point.
Yeah,
there's a lot of signals
right now.
A lot of things floating around right now, but what the future could look like. But yeah, it's rather difficult. Guap actually brings up a question. Do we need safer banking for uplisting?
So listen, that's a hot debate. And I've heard some people in the industry say they've talked to exchanges and exchanges said Schedule III be enough. I hope so. It's not what they've told us. They could be telling us different things.
John
And they
Pinto,
also could be changing their minds, and it could be depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
But I focus on the core reason why they don't list companies in the industry, and it has to do with AML and money laundering
That's
laws,
the biggest
Bank
thing.
Secrecy Act, aiding and abetting, all of the rules that they'd be worried about violating. And if Schedule 3 doesn't fix that, then they have to make a decision to consciously take that risk. And that's going to
Yep.
be a judgment call. And I think when you have the legal department guiding senior management, it's going to be hard for somebody in the legal department to say, yeah, you have no risk. So now your senior management has to say, is it worth it for me to take the risk? And then I just look at the industry and I say, what's the economic opportunity for them to take that risk? And is it big enough for them to take that risk? And I just put a question mark behind that. And what I do know is that if they have a safe harbor, then that risk goes away. And that's really easy. It's the easy button.
I know.
If you look at it though, I mean, if you look at it though, logically, there are publicly listed companies that manufacture and sell Schedule III substances that are listed on the NASDAQ, that are listed on the NYSE. They're normal businesses. They sell testosterone, they sell steroids, they sell ketamine. I mean, those are all S3 substances. Hims sells a bunch of S3 substances. They're listed on
However,
the exchanges.
yes, accurate. And I haven't looked at all of those, but what I think you'll find is that they all comply with the DEA registration requirements and the
Correct.
other requirements that come
Good
with
point.
manufacturing and selling Schedule III substances. And so, yes, I think if a cannabis company was medical only and was able to get registered with the DEA, was able to comply with all of the rules around distribution of Schedule III substances, then yes, they'd be a federally legal business, and they can uplist. I don't know that many people in the industry will be in a position to do that.
I do agree with you, though. I think the linchpin is updating the FinCEN guidance, being able to align with the AML, the KYC stuff, all that stuff. That's the biggest reservation with the exchanges, as well as the credit card networks. They won't act until that is completely just set in stone.
Which John Pinto from Soji outlined to us about 2 weeks ago. But he said, yes, we'll be curious to see if there's any kind of language pertaining to FINRA in if and when rescheduling, like we said, is going to happen, which we believe it will. Again, don't know timing wise, but that would be incredible if we didn't need SAFER and there was enough language in there to allow these companies to uplist. But it's what makes this American market so confusing, is because, yes, rescheduling is all about medical, but we understand that there's a big recreational play here for many companies, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's where the bigger money is for most of them.
Yeah.
Currently. Now, do people pivot part of their business and try to capture some of that CBD action that we were talking about?
Yeah.
That can be federally reimbursed, and you can end up getting insurance reimbursement. You know, there's a play there as well. And I think some folks that have the ability and the capital to pivot and play into that sector could do very, very well. They'll have
As far as I'm concerned, that's the $1 billion question, is who's going to participate in that market.
Well,
which companies are going to be able to service that market, and who's going to be able to be in the pilot, capitalize on it, and start to develop that patient base. Because, I mean, back in the napkin math, you're looking at potentially a $4 to $5 billion market.
I know.
On inception, with the government giving out $500 per person stipends. That's only going to get bigger if this is efficacious and it gets traction, which those businesses, I mean, that'll be a large business alone servicing those potential patients with full spectrum CBD.
Yeah, you would think, and I hope we hear more from, again, remember our seat here at NewLake, we're landlords. So when I say that, I think this is an outside perspective, I'd love to hear more from the industry operators, how they're thinking about it. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it lately, and maybe we'll get that in first quarter earnings. Maybe we'll get some commentary.
So I had
one last week.
I have, but I can't really talk about it. To be honest, most of the executives that I've spoken to,
that is a media mistake. You can't say that and say you can't talk about it on air, bud.
Yeah, you can. They're looking at it. There's a lot of companies that are positioning and trying to look at it. I mean, you want to just anecdotally look at Howard Kessler. Howard Kessler pushed the administration to reschedule. He was a proponent of the rule. And his main mandate within the Commonwealth Project was getting CBD covered through Medicare. From a 10,000-foot point of view, he has no business interest right now to enter that market. But he has a hell of a lot of resources. There's going to be somewhere where he's going to position himself, I believe, that's made up within the current landscape of this industry, but it's yet to be determined.
Yeah, we got some people pushing back on you. You can always be vague, right? Mitch writes, yes, he can be. Baked Bear, yes. I don't know if you saw that interview last week, but some of the people that could be stem to benefit, Leaf Brands, and we talked about that with Micah Anderson last week. But that's definitely conversations that they're currently having right now in the event that the opportunity presents itself. So not sure if anyone got a chance to see that interview last week, but check it out when you get a chance with Micah Anderson, because I like what they're building out there, because they've got the experience in California and now dipping into the New York market, but that CBD opportunity could be big for them as well. So
yeah, we're actually gonna have a guest on Tuesday of next week, Casmira Therapeutics,
okay,
who are going into the prescription business with CBD therapies. They're looking to get quite active in the space, so that will be one of them. It's not a publicly traded opportunity; they're private, but they've been around for 9 years. They have a 100,000 square foot facility in Colorado, and they are looking to lead and enter that market. So we'll have the CEO on Tuesday.
Yeah. Good.
And if you think about partnerships too, across this industry, the ability of some of the operators to partner with organizations that might be more experienced in running clinical trials. And when you think about clinical trials, the one of the obstacles or one of the difficult components is getting enough people into the clinical trial.
Correct.
You already have millions of patients that are walking in through the door of these operators every single day, that I think would be happy to participate in some sort of a clinical trial. So it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to try to find clinical trial participants in these products as you're doing research. And I think if you're a pharmaceutical company that wants to travel down the path of doing research, you're probably better off partnering with somebody that already has the potential participants, rather than having to go out and try to find a whole new group of folks to participate.
Good point.
Not to connect too many dots, but there's a market with 1 million patients close to it down in Florida that's purely medical, with a lot of people, I'm sure, that would sign up for those pilot programs, and a couple companies that would be able to capitalize on those that have been
speaking of that pilot
forging
program,
the regulations ahead the entire time.
Speaking of that pilot program, WEB Doobie, what a handle name. Is the CBD pilot program still kicking off in April? I'm sure that's a floating date right now, but can't answer your question. I'm not going to sit here and say it's April 17th at 2:13 p.m. But
oh wait, we got the Shad guarantee.
Oh, here we go.
Shad guarantee.
I did see.
By the way, his name is a play on web.
All right, everybody. We'll see y'all here Monday back at 4.
Yeah.
I saw RFK announce that Trump RX is launching. What was it? 10 days.
Trump RX is supposed to carry these products, but Trump RX is also going to do a hell of a lot more than just carry these products.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't look much into Trump RX launching as a catalyst for this. This is going to be a very, very small piece of Trump RX. Trump RX will just be what facilitates the transactions, and I'm sure it covers the Medicare transactions.
Somebody wrote earlier, good to see Shad's wearing the same clothes as a podcast on Wednesday. I'm not sure if that was the case or not, but if it is,
good to see people paying attention.
I've got like 8 freaking blazers. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was blue on blue.
Hey, I like this blazer. This is
nice, sharp.
Brand 11T. This is a sharp blazer. Speaking of sharp, I looked at your charts from December, and we had a great run leading up to the 18th, and then obviously, as I said before, I had the rug pulled under our feet. But you had, for the better portion of December, you were up 28%, which was impressive to see, even after all the stuff that happened on the 18th. So what are you building here? And why is that coming to fruition? Because when I look at some of the peers or competitors within the industry, there are some notable stats that stood out to me in comparison to how you performed back in December.
Yeah, listen, we didn't do anything different in December. it's really what we've done previously that I think has garnered some of the attention. I think it's about the work that we've been doing over the last couple of years and communicating with investors, telling the story, talking about the catalysts. What was really encouraging for us was not just looking at the stock price go up. What was encouraging was the volume. It was significantly higher volume than we had seen, and it sustained it. And we've talked on some of your previous podcasts, the way you get upward momentum in stock prices is you have demand outstrip supply in any business, right? But specifically for stocks, that sustained demand is what drives prices higher. And if you look at the volume charts, our volume was up significantly. And
Huge.
so
I'm looking at some of the stats here. 177% over a 30-day average in comparison to IIPR was 49. And then
but do you think it's also a function of the fact that you issue a dividend? So a lot of people aren't trading your stock. People that are buying your stock are investing in the business and more so looking to hold it long term and capture not only the value accretion in the portfolio, but also the dividend.
Very well said. I'll take you on the road with me, Anthony. Yes, I think that's definitely part of it. But the question really is about, well, why was there such a large move into the stock after the EO? Ultimately, I can't totally explain it without talking to all of those investors. But what we've been telling investors is we've been talking about the story. We've been talking about the quality of the portfolio. We've been talking about the dividend. We've been talking about the upside. And I think what happened was where there was a large group of investors, or I should say a group of investors that had large appetite that were waiting for that first catalyst to hit to trigger their desire to move into the stock in a meaningful way. And so that it was really started with the Washington Post article around the 10th, 11th, where we really started to see that volume spike up, and it doubled, almost, and some days was triple the historical average. And I think it's just the work that you do day in and day out, communicating with investors, talking about how we're working to mitigate risk in the portfolio. We always say it, we're not perfect. Any landlord is bound to have vacancies in their portfolio, particularly when you focus on an industry as dynamic as cannabis. And so by trying to be proactive in mitigating risk, trying to re-tenant buildings, and communicating all that in a very transparent and honest way with investors, I think has built some credibility for the company and only serves as a strong foundation for people to enter into the stock when they feel it's an attractive entry point.
30-day average daily volume percentage change was 177%. 30-day average daily volume percentage change. Did I just repeat that? No, that was a little bit different what I said.
Doesn't surprise me because people with larger portfolios and people that want to come in are going to go towards something such as your stock that does pay a dividend, that the credit strength of all of your tenants are all getting stronger at the same time on the back of S3 implementation, and they can wait and get paid the dividend. It's also a hell of a lot less volatile than the plant touching peers.
Yeah, for sure.
Stock was up 28% during that timeline, which was running from early December until the 28th or 30th, I should say. IIPR was down 6.5%. AFCG was 7.5% down, and Chicago Atlantic was also down almost 3%. So again, I don't like to fixate so much on like here today, gone tomorrow. Every dog has its day if you're a good company when it comes to share price. However, the volume is what was key that I'd noticed, and you brought up some very valid points, Anthony, pertaining to that. So again, it's what you've done in the past and managing expectations. And when you do that and have transparency, that's what investors want, right?
I think it's what investors want, deserve, and quite frankly, demand. Full stop. That's the way we run our business.
Yeah. You brought up a good point about PA earlier. And we keep talking about whether it's not going to happen. Does it kind of remind you of the Buffalo Bills each time an NFL season begins about them potentially winning the Super Bowl?
Oh my gosh, no, don't do that to people that might follow. That could be hurtful to people.
It sucks that states aren't run by like the feds, because at this point, Josh Shapiro would have executive ordered adult use cannabis in the state of Pennsylvania. It's the state level politicians that just can't get it together. It sucks.
Governor Josh Shapiro, aka Sean McDermott.
Who got fired?
Yeah, well, listen, I think with Pennsylvania, it's another example of politics. Cannabis has been the political football that has been this trade-off. I'll do this if you do that. I'll do this if you do that. You don't have cannabis being this topic that politicians think we need to have this in the state because we need our people to have free access to plant medicine or plant-based products. No, people are saying we need this because we need the tax dollars, right? That's the impetus. And the other side's saying, well, I'll give you that if you give me this. So it's a political football, and it's really hard to predict. I mean, all the reasons are there for them to approve it. It's just politics, unfortunately. In my opinion.
It sucks because the governor's shouting, unlike Virginia, which granted we got Spamberger now and Youngkin gone. I mean, Shapiro wants this done. Shapiro's told them to get it done.
I know.
And they just can't, they just can't come to grips.
So you said a word 30 seconds ago, he's shouting about it. I'm going to make a distinction. I think he said, yes, he wants it done. He's put it in his budget. I don't think he shouted about it. I don't think he's really pushed it. And when I talk to people inside the state and talk to Michael on the segment next week, it doesn't appear that he's put his shoulder really behind it to really, really push it. And if you think about political agendas, usually the leader has to get behind a topic when it's controversial to get it across the finish line. And I'm not hearing that he's doing that.
So are you more so saying that he's using it as a carrot like the Biden administration did to elicit the response that
I don't know if he's using it
perception that I'm giving it?
I don't know if he's using it as a carrot, but it would seem to me, and again, you should talk to people who are closer to Pennsylvania politics, but based on the people I talk to, it seems to me like he doesn't, and his people don't view it as politically expedient to really put his shoulder behind it. Now, if this guy has national aspirations, he has to be a little careful about how he addresses this topic. So he may want it. He may put it in his budget. And he's doing that possibly, again, I don't know, but possibly he is doing that because he wants to have more of a balanced budget, wants to show revenue growth in the budget for those national aspirations. But he may not want it bad enough to get into the back room and really horse trade to get it done and put his shoulder behind it.
Which looks
that's
like
all
it's true.
speculative.
Which looks like it's speculative, but I mean, where we are now versus where we were 2 years ago, I would have to say that you're probably correct.
He was heavily considered to be VP with Kamala too, was he not?
Yes,
he was.
He was. Yep, he was. I mean, and again, let's go to other states. Well, you just mentioned Virginia, right? It was a political football in Virginia when Youngkin said he would sign that if he got the money to get the stadium moved from Washington, D.C. The stadium fell apart. They stayed in D.C., and then he ended up vetoing the bill. Political football.
It was funny. It was funny that he was very anti-cannabis, but he would sign it if he got his stadium.
Right.
Speaking of stadiums, Mitch from Chicago writes that, is that true that they've approved a stadium for the Bears to get moved to Indiana?
You think the Chicago Bears are going to leave Chicago?
Well, I know they're leaving downtown because I think it was pitched that they were going out to the suburbs, but I don't know. I like Soldier Field. You know, we go to Benzenga and you pull right up. What a great location that stadium is. That city is incredible in the summertime, is it not?
It's beautiful in the summertime.
Go there now.
It's beautiful all year round. It's biting cold now. If you were to go there, one of our people is in Chicago. It's a great city.
I got a little bit of shit one time. I was there with filming some stuff with Cresco at their Sunnyside dispensary, which is right across the street from Wrigley. And we were flying drones up the street and we flew it over Wrigley. And
no.
Went down. Luckily, we got it back on and it flew out of Wrigley. But I was sweating. That's a no-no. But anyway, listen, always good catching up with you. Great insight. And more importantly, the takeaway here is don't focus on timelines, as we usually say. We've got an executive order in play. Cannabis rescheduling is going to happen. Let's just sit back and see what happens timeline-wise. But it is moving ahead, and that's a good thing, right?
It absolutely is. And I watched your segment with Shane because I had gone at Tom as well on his perspective. Tom had this perspective that you must have a hearing. Again, more uncertainty. Shane is much more better positioned. He's an expert in that. I am not. But everything I hear, everything I see is that this is just going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while. As you said, we'll be patient. And it's better to get it done than to than to rush through it. And Anthony, you made this point, I think, on the podcast. Better to take more time, get it done right, because if you rush through it and you have the challenges, it might take even longer to get to the ultimate rule implementation. So, you know, listen.
Careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all know waiting in the wings is Bill Barr. And yeah, you know, it's a prohibitionist group. They have a long uphill climb, but he is a very good lawyer. And anytime you get a very good lawyer in place, they can complicate things. And it's always viewed as a win, even if they can drag this out as long as possible. That's still a win for them. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, and as we all look for signals on this stuff, one of the things I was thinking about when you guys were talking about it the other day was we'll know, I think, when it's about to drop, because all of a sudden the heat will get turned up from Sam.
Yeah.
Right. They seem to have the best insight into what's happening in Washington, better than anybody that I've seen in this industry try to prognosticate.
I think Sabet's embedded the DEA.
Yeah.
Sabet's
I think it's been proven.
In the building at the DEA. And I think as soon as we get either it's moot or there's a briefing set, which is no briefing for the interlocutory appeal, we're going to know it's go time, because then I have got a feeling, or they do it simultaneously and it just happens. But I think those are going to be the signals. But yeah, Sabet's front ran this every time.
Would you bring him on board? If you can't beat him, join him. If you decided to get rid of the prohibitionist side and wanted to like just promote cannabis and why it should be rescheduled, would you bring Kevin Sabet on?
No, I'd like to send him to the moon.
You know, I had a moment last year where I had reached out to them to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
And said, you know, I did it offline. I said, you know, hey, I just want to have an honest conversation to understand a little bit more about your perspective. I think there's actually more common ground amongst the industry and him than there really is, right? And nobody wants minors, right? Nobody wants access. And so I was trying to find a way to find some common ground. There was an initial response to say, yes, let's do it. And they just never followed up. And
talk to Luke, not Kevin.
That's who I reached out to.
So I've talked to Luke. We go back and forth all the time. He's actually a pretty good dude. He's very reasonable when you're talking to him like one-on-one, like on plane. He's not going to like block you and or just go off on tangents. But we do want some of the same things, like harm reduction, it out of the hands of minors, regulation. He's pretty open-minded when it comes to this stuff. Granted, they have their principles and they'll bear down if they want to argue against it. But I mean, Luke's out there talking to everybody. Kevin's out there blocking everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very stark difference in the way that they carry themselves.
Simon, I agree with you. They're gaslighting. There's no minor issues. These are deliberate gaslights. And that is a message when it comes to minors that's been going around for decades. If you look at clips of previous administrations, that's always been at the forefront. But statistics and data, that's what you got to back it up with. When you look at states like Washington, Oregon, Colorado, among others, all showing that usage among minors actually declines in regulated states.
Yeah. And look at the way they position the language they use to describe Sam now. They're talking about being against the commercialization of cannabis. They're not talking about being against legalization of cannabis. It's the commercialization. I think that's an important language change, because it is a bit of a capitulation on the initial objective of their business. And to say that they're now pivoting against the commercialization. And listen, it's an existential issue for them. They need to, in order to get paid, they need to continue to have something to fight for. And Hemp has given them a new whipping boy to go after.
Yeah.
Good. Let them go after it.
Well, I don't know that they distinguich hemp from legal cannabis, nor would they.
But that's always been our problem. Any risk that hemp implies, it's full-blown cannabis at the end of the day, and they don't make the point of distinction. They welcome it.
Yes.
Because they can just conflate it as cannabis through and through, and there's no distinction between what True Leaf is selling and what the gas station is selling. It's just THC, and they're not going to convey that in their messaging. They don't want to.
Right.
We might do a poll about who are the top 5 nicest people in the space. I think you might win that one, Anthony.
Oh, stop it. Come on, you guys are kind.
I hear 14
yeah.
inches of snow. You told me yesterday that you got in Boston.
Yeah, I'm up in Connecticut. Yeah, that's what we had at my
wild.
neighborhood.
Are you a
Yeah.
Pats fan? Patriots fan?
I am, but before anybody heckles me, I've been a fan since long before they were good. But it's been a
Seahawks
good
are about
run.
to get their
Hey,
revenge.
question. Who is the quarterback for the Patriots in Super Bowl 20 against the Bears? Do you know?
Doug Flutie.
No.
No.
First name's Tony. Tony Easton. Remember him?
Oh, Tony Easton. Yeah. Yeah.
A couple years before Anthony was born, but I still think
I was a Jets fan until, because I grew up in New York, until they moved to New Jersey, and that's when I moved over to the Pats.
that 85 Bears team, that was the best defense I've ever
Oh gosh.
seen. But then the Ravens of early
I
2000s.
was going to say the Ravens.
The Ravens are pretty insane too.
With Ed Reed and Ray Lewis.
I know, but I don't get me wrong. The Ravens defense was insane. I've never seen a defense like that Bears team. It was crazy. You couldn't score a point.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I worry about the front four for the Patriots. They had a ton of trouble with Denver.
Seattle's going to
Seattle's gonna, I
Seattle's
think,
gonna
run
roll.
all over them. Yeah.
I didn't see the
Yeah.
game that much. So the Patriots had problem with Denver's front four.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not a sportscaster, but in my opinion, watching that, the amount of pressures they had on Drake May, the sacks that he took, the confusing packages that they presented him. Now the conditions weren't that great, and I think he played a pretty good game, but they eked one out against a replacement quarterback that,
Yeah.
by and large, I mean, he had some really good plays, but by and large, he was not consistently well.
Yeah.
Not consistently good against the Pats. So I think they got a little lucky there. I'm not optimistic against Seattle.
Sadly, and kind of
I'm pulling for
somewhat
Seattle.
embarrassingly, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't know why, but
We're done.
DeMarcus Lawrence left Dallas. That was a big loss, and said, I'm going to Seattle because I think there's a chance for me to win a Super Bowl ring. And I thought, well, they're heading the right direction, but man, him being added to that front four, they might win a Super Bowl, which at all signs point in that direction.
They look really good. Really good.
Just like cannabis rescheduling. Seattle this time, cannabis.
Way to bring it back.
Right?
Yeah, bring it back.
Was it Steve
All right.
Grogan? Oh, sorry, Gop. Maybe I got it wrong.
Steve
are
Grogan.
right. It was Steve Grogan.
Steve
I
Grogan.
stand corrected.
I
All right.
don't even know who Steve Grogan is.
Good seeing you. Have a good weekend, okay?
All right. Have a great weekend, fellas.
right.
Good talking to you. Bye-bye.
The Cowboys of the 90s were the best. They were insane. And I don't know how they had to let Jimmy Johnson let go. But if you guys watch, get a chance, that 8-part series on Netflix, that is unbelievable. Primetime. Is it called Primetime? I think it was called Primetime with the Cowboys story. It's
Not sure.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. I think that wraps things up. If there's any lasting comments you want to make about Friday's shows, what would it be?
We'll see you guys on Monday for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yes. Just so everybody understands that. I hope you all.
And by the way, it'll be Thursday at 4, not Thursday at 11 a.m.
No.
Mocking
Thursday
the
at 4.
Yeah.
Didn't really get much comments from Wednesday's show when I announced it. But yeah, Monday through Thursday after markets, 4:00, we're doing the live stream now. So we're going from 3 shows per week to now 4, and getting rid of the Friday 11 a.m. just because metrics wise, view wise, 4:00 seems to be the strong point. And I think all of you would like the fact that it's on 4 times per week, especially if we get reform and we start to climb more and more and more, which is great. So then on Friday, we will have a full recap of the week's biggest developments and biggest moments. I usually post that on Sunday afternoons. That's going to come out Friday at 4:00. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, we'll have a full recap performance review of MSOS, its top holding performances for the week, along with YOLO's ETF as well, which is a lot of the international companies that trade on the big boy exchanges. So we'll have a recap of YOLO on Saturday and then a recap of MSOS for the week on Sunday. So that'll keep.
And we will have a new sponsor next week.
We will. Free Pouch. Turning.
I was going to give a little bit of yeah.
I gave it away. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Fire away. You want to talk about them?
I'm good.
You're good? That'll be interesting. So yeah, we are growing, and we appreciate everybody for logging on each and every day and leaving comments. And let's hope.
Raj. Did you reach out to Raj to have him on?
Yes, we were having him on. Memory serves me correctly. I wrote this down. Raj. I thought we had him in on Monday for an interview. No, we don't. Well, I'm going to reach out to the team now. I'm going to lock it in for next week. So we'll keep you posted. Good. Hopefully get them on one day. As usual, if you want to stay up to date, make sure to scan that QR code, become a daily Baked In newsletter subscriber. And a quick reminder as well that today's podcast is presented by Flowhub. And they're the retail partner trusted by the best, dispensaries in the country. If you haven't evaluated your tech stack in years, there's a good chance you're leaving money and efficiency on the table. Serious operators can see what's possible by visiting flowhub.com. And if you want to book a demo, as I said always in the past, again, visit flowhub.com. I actually got all my shipment in yesterday of bong water. I wish I had that can with me right now.
Do you have put some in the fridge?
Do you have it?
No. Make
sure to put that on display next week. Okay, man, that's it for now. We'll reach out to High Tide. We'll keep you all posted, everyone, and find out what day Raj can come on next week. Hopefully he's available next week. If not, I'm sure the following week afterwards. But yes, thanks again, everybody. AV, have a good weekend. We'll see you all back here Monday at 4 with Mr. Michael Bronstein. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names of the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.